Welcome to another episode of the Chicks on the Right podcast, where we talk to our friend and sponsor of the show, Zach Abraham from Bulwark Capital Management, about all the stuff that's going on in the world, and particularly as it relates to the economy and finances and retirement and things such as that. And now that we have a new president, we can hope for a lot of positive changes. But, you know, he's done a lot of executive orders here in his first week. And so do you think that any of them have like the possibility, the capability of making us feel immediate changes?
Yeah, I don't think that you'll get the actual, real economic or political benefit from it right away. But I think that you're going to see it in financial markets. I think you're going to see it in economic news. I think a lot of people here, especially in the United States, are going to be really, really, really surprised by the international, uh, you know, the temperature, if you will, toward a Trump presidency, and it's going to be a lot more positive than people here in the United States think. I've got an employee of mine who was just down for a week in Panama, and was at a wedding where there were several high-ranking government officials there, and they were saying how pumped they are about a Trump presidency, how Latin America has been ignored by the Biden administration, and how they're excited, how they want the United States to put another military installation in Panama. They want the United States to take more control over the Panama Canal. So you're already seeing the narrative here in the United States getting twisted. If you go talk to the people down, the Panamanians, they're loving this, right? and then and you add that to I don't know if we talked about it, but you add it to what we're seeing right now in Brazil, or excuse me, in Argentina. You add it to what we're seeing in Ecuador. You add it to what we may start seeing in Brazil out of necessity. And I think that you've got the possibility of an extraordinarily exciting time, especially in South America. If you remember back to like the 50s and the 60s, 70s, up through the 70s in the Cold War, right? There was that whole domino theory of communism, and they were worried about it going through Latin America and tipping over one country at a time. Well, these countries and economies have been sucking and choking on socialist policies for the last 40 years, and the bill has come due. Right, that's what you're seeing in the currency crisis in Argentina and Brazil. And Argentina right now is laying out a path to the answer is not more government intervention. The answer is economic freedom. The answer is to cut and it's working.
Yes.
Right. And it's working in Ecuador. And now you've got Panama sitting there going, we want them. We do not get the straight deal here in the United States. And the international acceptance of this or feeling from this is going to be, I think is going to be profound. I think that I think people take him internationally a lot more seriously than the media would like to have you believe that they do. And, all these executive orders, for the most part, I'm still trying to get my head around the Gulf of Mexico, America. Whatever. I don't really get that. But I did, on the moral side of things too. And I'm not surprised to see this because I figured he would, but, I honestly, and I don't mean this, over the top or to be hyperbolic, but I feel like I can sleep better knowing that those people that have been imprisoned over the January 6th thing, that justice is going to come back. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
That was such a blight and such a disgusting thing and so scary, right? Like, I've never seen anything like that in my life. Not even in the United States.
And there are still people that are on the left saying, I can't believe that they're, going to go free. I can't believe these people, they've been sitting and rotting for 4 years. Like some of them have been rotting for longer than rapists have, I mean, it's like, it's unreal.
I just don't even, pulling back from, and I don't want to go backwards and start focusing on January 6th again. But it did bring back those memories where I'm like, hey, setting all politics aside, who can turn on those videos and see the police opening the gates and the doors and sit there and still stick to this insurrection narrative, right? Like, come on,
Well,
but they are.
It's the same people that pardon their kids 15 minutes before Trump gets up on stage
Yeah.
and does his inaugural address, right?
Well, yeah, and it's also this completely idiotic and brain dead bit of political dogma, right? Which is we know that you're evil and we know you're bent on the destruction of our country. We just need to figure out how, right?
Yeah.
We've already made our decision up about you, and so now we just have to figure out what to accuse you of.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you touched on the media, Zach, and like the media is not going to be kind to him. We know they're not. But this time we're not going to buy their crap as much, but they're going to just pummel him. They've already started. They started yesterday, right? But like when it comes to inflation, okay, they're going to be like, well, eggs aren't cheaper in a week. So
they're already saying it. They're already saying it. It's already so ridiculous.
So just to be fair, I mean, because oh my goodness, these people, they're nuts, right? So it's like, okay, so just to be fair, like when it comes to inflation, to be just practical about it, what do you think the average everyday American should expect about inflation and prices and gas and eggs and bacon and stuff like that coming down? What should we expect about that?
So inflation is really tough, but generally speaking, people need to realize that the Biden administration, and look, Trump was no light spender when he was in office either. But I think we can all agree. Now, you can make the argument that a Trump administration would have done something similar. I doubt that he would have passed the Inflation Reduction Act.
No way.
That added to it. You still would add inflation without the Inflation Reduction Act. But people need to accept the fact that regardless of who you had in president or you got into the White House in this election term, there was spilt milk, man. Right? Like, what do you want to do? So if you want to instantly get rid of inflation, we can do it. And it's called a recession and 10 to 12% unemployment.
Yeah.
Right. That's one of the pernicious things about inflation, which is why guys like me, when they were doing this, was sitting there going, whoa, 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 whoa. Right. Because once you let that cat out of the bag, it's really tough because you get to a point where you don't have good choices left. Right. And there is no easy way out, so to speak.
And then you're actually hurting cats.
Right. 100%. And so what your choice really is we are going to have to live because of what was done with higher levels of inflation than we are probably comfortable with.
Yeah.
You should see it ebb and flow. If we do not, now this is me, guys, looking at this from an economic lens, not looking at it through a political lens, right? I have a saying on my show all the time, we're going to focus more on finance because that's hard enough, let alone putting your political, your political ideas into it. But we have to accept that you've got spilt milk. Like I said, that Pandora's box was open. It is what it is. And you either want to deal with a nasty recession, which will bring down prices. Okay. That will do it. Or if you don't want that, which I don't think anybody does, the only real choice you have to go about it is sort of what they're doing right now with like Doge and cutting regulations. There's a blueprint for that right now down there in Argentina. And I am such a big proponent of economic freedom, very much libertarian bends. And even I've been shocked, you guys, about how much the regulations have offset the economic pain of the government spending cuts, meaning it's working even better than I would have thought.
Wow.
And I think it's kind of that proof case, right? Of if we want the least amount of disruption and we want to deal with inflation, we're going to have to do it on a longer timetable, and we're going to have to do it through, energy, right? We can control, there's inputs we can control there that will have a lot of impact throughout the entire economy. But we're going to have to do those things over time, and we're going to have to do it through efficiency and increases in productivity.
Yeah, I do think.
And if anybody argues the opposite of that, they just you can get out there and argue all day long and sound really smart and tell everybody that the sky is pink. It's not, right? It's blue. But like that's really the only way out of it. And there's nothing Trump could have done now or in the next 4 months to just make inflation go away.
I do think he's going to do those things. He's going to slash and cut and do everything he can because he does not want to fail. And he knows that the ultimate test of success is with people like us who are going to the grocery store, who are going to the gas tanks and all of that stuff. It's not, this intangible thing. It is tangible. Like we have to be able to see success in our pocketbooks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's going to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that you're going to see it in, I think you're going to see it in a whole host of ways, right? Like I said, there are immediate levers he can pull, and he's already pulling it on the energy side. Oil drops 10%. That's a tax cut for the entire economy, right?
Yes.
Because that cost flows through to every product we buy.
Right.
And so I like that stuff is going on, right? Like the trade deals, manufacturing, chips now here in the United States. So many of these things that he's a proponent of. But my whole point was they're addressing it really the only way that you can, and the only way that I think is really viable. And the other thing is, remember, and they'll try to play this game. It's not so much about the level of inflation as it is the level of inflation compared to growth, right? So let's say we had, 4% inflation is awful, right? There is a 4%. It's not horrible, but it's way above averages, way higher than we'd like to see, and comfortably, right? However, if you had 9% economic growth, right, that means you're growing at 5% real. That's massive, right? And so inflation is a context thing, right? They're like, can you live with 3.5%, 4% inflation? And my attitude is, well, what's the growth rate, right? If the growth rate's 4.5%, that's not going to be fun, right? If the growth rate's 8%, yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, because like essentially, and it's more complicated than this, but essentially the way you look at it is, if I've got an asset that's appreciating at 8 to 10% a year and inflation's running at 4%, I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but I'm making a net of 6% a year, right? That's a wonderful return. So it's all context. And I think that I know what they're trying to do is they're trying to push up the other end, right? So like we can deal with spending and we can deal with these things, but we can also deal with it by jacking up productivity, decreasing regulations and making the economy more efficient.
He's definitely doing. I mean, he's doing all the steps to deregulate, or at least freeze new regulations for the time being. Which is, I know, thank God, is right. Yeah, I mean, it's just. I feel like it's just the beginning of a lot of wins, and I hope that we all feel that. And it's got to be an exciting time for you because you've got now 2025. You're like previewing it. You're doing seminars about it. Tell people how they can learn more about what you expect to see in the coming year.
Yeah, it's funny you bring this up. We're licking our chops just because everything he's doing economically lines up with so many of these parts of the market that have not been followed and been ignored, and it just have insanely ridiculously cheap valuations. So we're like, here we go, man. It feels like our Super Bowl, So anyway, best way to get a hold of us, bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, knowyourriskradio.com. Pretty easy to find. We do our show every single day. It's about 25 to 30 minutes summation of everything going on economically and politically and in markets that day. And not too hard to find. Just Google Know Your Risk Radio or Bulwark Capital Management.
All right. Thanks once again, Zach.
Thank you, ladies, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Too.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.